morning and welcome to the special show Google Picks Pichai, which we are bringing to you from India's Silicon Valley, Bangalore. It's indeed a big day in the original Silicon Valley in the US. Now, Google has changed our lives in more ways than we can count. And today they've gone a step ahead and changed the alphabet as we know it. Because Google has now created a new holding company, Alphabet Inc., which will house some of its core businesses, such as the search business, the apps business, the advertising business, and some of its moonshots, be it the self-driving cars, robotics, nanoparticles, and even technologies to detect diseases. But the biggest star in the alphabet is the letter S, because that stands for Sundar Pichai, the engineer from Chennai who's risen to become the CEO of one of the world's most admired internet companies, Google. Now, Google's motto has always been "Don't be evil." And going by that motto, they couldn't have picked a better man for the job. Because Sundar Pichai is not just super smart, energetic, extremely intelligent, but also a very, very nice guy. Sundar Pichai is perhaps proof that nice guys don't always finish last. Here's a look at Sundar Pichai through the years and how he really rose through the ranks in Google in the special report.
The name is Pichai, Sundar Pichai. Google's search for a new CEO has finally come to an end. The Chennai-born IIT grad will run one of the world's most valuable companies, Google. His appointment does not come as a surprise. Silicon Valley knew this was coming. Ever since the major shake-up at Google last year put Pichai in charge of all of its core products. His appointment comes at a time when Google has unleashed a massive reorganization. As part of this rejig, Google will create a holding company, Alphabet Inc., which will be led by co-founder and CEO Larry Page. Another co-founder, Sergey Brin, will be in tow as president. That's about the holding company, which will now be a listed entity. Google will be the operating company, which will be headed by Pichai. It's not just any other rejig. Alphabet will take Google a step closer to the traditional conglomerates model, with one holding company nestling several billion-dollar babies. And the market is just loving it. The Google stock shot up ahead of the announcement, taking the valuation of the company to a whopping $444 billion. But for now, the spotlight is clearly on Pichai, who joins the elite league of Satya Nadella and Indira Nooyi, the Made in India CEOs who made it big on the global stage. With Chandra R. Srikanth, Faye D'Souza, ET Now.
Now, you had a look at the massive reorganization exercise that Google has unveiled. But for investors and analysts who've been tracking Google all these years, they've really said that the internet giant is a past master in confounding its investors and shareholders, getting into an array of businesses that may or may not have connection to its core business. But there's no reason for you to be confused about Google any longer, because here's a cheat sheet on Alphabet by Krishna Kumar.
The actual alphabet is not new to any of us, but this one surely is, and it is quite simple to understand really. If the original alphabet is a collection of letters, this one is a collection of companies, with Alphabet being the parent/holding/umbrella company. Keep in mind, Alphabet Inc. will replace Google Inc. as the publicly traded company on Wall Street, and all shares of Google will now automatically become shares of Alphabet instead. And Larry Page, the current CEO of Google, becomes the CEO of the umbrella Alphabet company, with co-founder Sergey Brin becoming the president and Eric Schmidt becoming the executive chairman of the umbrella Alphabet company. Simple. Now, moving on. Google becomes a fully owned subsidiary of Alphabet, with Sundar Pichai taking over as the CEO of the company, which will do all the things that Google is famous for: search engines, YouTube, Android, Maps, etc. and etc. Most of its other ventures, however, will now be run separately under the Alphabet umbrella. Now, that will include the likes of, say, Calico, a project devoted to extending the human lifespan, Nest, the company's smart home products division, Fiber, its ultra-high-speed internet infrastructure project, and of course, Google X, the infamous lab that incubates breakthrough innovations like solar-powered internet balloons and, of course, self-driving cars. The other two are largely investment arms in the form of Google Ventures, meant for investing in new tech companies with bold innovations, and Google Capital for investing in long-term technology trends. Now, what this essentially does is separate the core web and advertising business from the creative and more ambitious projects of Google. And all of the companies under the Alphabet umbrella will be able to operate with greater independence as well. With that, it's back to you.
Thanks so much, Krishna, for really deconstructing the alphabet for us. I'm sure it's a new alphabet that all of us will get used to in the coming weeks. But here out the man himself, Sundar Pichai, who was in India a few months back to unveil the Android One. Now, Sundar Pichai is betting big on the India story going ahead with increasing internet penetration, technologies such as 3G, 4G. India is a market that Google really needs to win in going ahead. Here are Sundar Pichai.
In my lifetime, the internet is the most transformational thing in technology I've seen. If you look at the history of personal computing, the advent of internet significantly changed how we use computing. In fact, it's hard to imagine pretty much anything we do on a day-to-day basis without the internet. The pace at which users are adopting the internet is unprecedented. It's just been 15 years since the internet has launched, and we are already at 3 billion users around the world. Rajan mentioned this, but India is already driving a lot of this growth. It's already the third largest country in the world for internet users. Rajan mentioned about the vibrant startup community. Just in the last couple of years, I've personally seen many exciting applications on top of Android which are taking off. In India, for all the success we have had, only 10% of people in India have access to smartphones. The number is growing, and it's exciting to see, but it's just not growing fast enough, and we really want to do better. The first is hardware. For an entry-level smartphone, we want to deliver a high-quality smartphone. It's really important that people get access to the same. Finally, connectivity. For you to be connected to the internet, you need access to data and connectivity, and that's been a real issue. So, looking at these three buckets, we have stepped back, and over the past year, we've been working pretty hard. The team has been working hard with the entire ecosystem, and we are taking an integrated approach, thinking across hardware, software, and connectivity. And we've been doing it under the umbrella of a program called Android One.
You heard out Sundar Pichai really betting big on the India story going ahead, and perhaps that should mean that he will make a lot more frequent trips to India than he has before. But Sundar Pichai's elevation to the top of Google has got reactions flying thick and fast from India Inc. They're obviously very proud of the achievements that Sundar Pichai has demonstrated. Everyone from N.R. Narayan Murthy has been praising him. And in fact, we spoke to Paytm's founder and CEO Vijay Sharma, who said that dynamic organizations like Google is where these leadership changes really take place, and perhaps it's a sign that we will see similar changes happening in tech companies in India as well. Don't forget, Paytm is a unicorn and one of the next big companies to watch out for in the Indian space. Here's Paytm founder Vijay Sharma talking to Krishna Kumar.
This has been a challenge across the world, that how once a company has become big, continues to innovate and scale. And people have created labs, people have created independent subsidiaries, but that have not worked out. Google founders have done the reverse. They've said that what is big, I'm going to give it to my teammate. What is yet challenging and new, we're going to run it together. So I believe that economies of scale of their size and economy and their capabilities can disrupt many more industries. It's incredible, fabulous how they are depending on their team members to independently run the company and give the stock market earning, while they themselves will be doing some things which are new. This is, if it is successful, you can see many companies imitating it later on when they become big. I mean, it's been challenged with every company which has become big, but Google is addressing it in a new, smart way.
There are other companies as well, say a Microsoft or an IBM, which are really big companies, but who are sort of reorganizing themselves in terms of because of distress more than in Google's case. It's a natural. You think it's a very natural move. You sort of would have expected Google to do something like this even before.
I think I've had conversations and I could figure out that Larry's respect of Sundar is an extraordinary one. I've heard Larry saying in person that he's amazed by how Sundar sees the vision of Google and executes it tremendously. Expecting him to be CEO, if it was to be banked that over the period there'll be a CEO role, there's no doubt that it could have been Sundar. So it's amazing, and I think it's very supportive of. He's very supportive of his teammates, and amazing for Sundar.
No, but this whole reorganization move, did you see this happening even as Sundar was being made CEO?
No, technically it was not needed, but I think expect Google to do something extraordinary. I think so. It was not coming. It was not forthcoming. Everybody is pleasantly surprised. And would it be called ABC.XYZ is also a very surprising move. But that said, I think it was amazing. I mean, the way they've done it is there's a benchmark for others to follow.
You heard out the Paytm founder Vijay Shekhar Sharma talking about the organization culture and structure that enabled such a move. A man who joined barely a decade back, rising to become the CEO at Google. But now we have a very special guest on the show, a person who's familiar with Sundar Pichai during his formative years and who will tell us what qualities really set Sundar Pichai apart. We have Professor Sanat Kumar Roy from IIT Kharagpur, which is Sundar Pichai's alma mater. Professor Roy, if you can hear me.
Yes, please.
Sir, please start by telling us about what you remember about Sundar Pichai. What kind of student was he?
So, it's rather so to say that there is no question that he was a very intelligent student. But apart from being intelligent, he had many other qualities which had definitely set him apart in comparison to his classmates. He was a little shy type of student and very unassuming in his appearance, but with a childish face and very thoughtful mind. And he was very systematic in his approach to any solution in the class itself, and for which rather he stood first in his class, and he was awarded the Pichai Silver Medal of our institute in 1993. And after graduation, he moved to US, where he had rather pursued his higher study on electronic materials further, and then subsequently joined Google, where he rose up to the vice president 3 years ago. And we are extremely happy that today he has made Indians as proud that we are equally competent in technological field, even though India is considered to be a very economically poor country, you know.
Professor Roy, you mentioned that he really topped his class. So was he a bookworm, very studious person? You already mentioned that he's shy, but tell us more about that. Was he, a complete bookworm, extremely studious during his IIT years?
Yes. Rather, he was not very much involved in extracurricular activities. Rather, he had very much focused his total time spending on academics. As such, in the IIT system, we have a very military or regimentary type of lifestyle. In a sense, from morning 7 o'clock till night 12 o'clock, we have a packed program of academics. So even there are many students who try to balance between academics and extracurricular activity. But Sundar was a person rather who had concentrated totally on academics, and his motto was from the beginning itself to contribute something original, and that was very much evident during his undergraduate study itself.
Sundar's focus on academics has certainly paid off for him, Professor Roy. But before we let you go, your website, IIT Kharagpur website already has a congratulatory message for Sundar Pichai. So tell us something about the mood in the campus, and has he also been a very active part of the alumni network in terms of giving back to the institution? If you can take us through that.
Actually, today itself our Alumni Association have sent congratulations to him, and as well virtually to the different chapters all over, spread all over the globe. Pan IIT is very active among the IITians who are settled in the United States, and they are sending the wave all over the world. Rather, as Indians, whatever we have contributed technologically at such young age by Sundar, it is definitely worth praising. There's no doubt about it. And we all feel very much proud of him.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Professor Roy. Not just
Yes,
you, everybody is proud of Sundar Pichai today. But, Sundar Pichai is not the only name from India who's really shown abroad, who's really shown at Silicon Valley. He joins a growing list of Indians who've become very influential globally in the business space. Here's a list, here's a power list for you, which really talks about the Fortune 500, the Fortune 100 companies, the Fortune 50 companies where Indians have risen to the top. So apart from Sundar Pichai at Google, you had Satya Nadella, who recently took charge as the CEO of Microsoft. You have people like Indra Nui, who's taken charge at PepsiCo. You also have people like Rajiv Suri from Nokia, Francisco D'Souza from Cognizant. It's really a big list that we've seen, and this is a sign that it's indeed India shining as far as the global list is concerned. But moving on from that, we now shift to a very special discussion that we have on the show. This is with two people who have worked with Sundar Pichai in the past. We have Amit Somani from Prime Venture Partners. He was formerly an executive at Google who was in charge of product management. We also have Lalitesh Katragadda, who was the India head as far as products were concerned at Google. Thank you so much, Amit Somani and Lalitesh. Amit, you were part of Google at around the same time that Sundar Pichai joined Google, I think a decade back. Tell us about, the initial years for him, and how did he really get him to join Google from McKinsey? Because he had a very good consulting job going from McKinsey. How did that happen? Tell us about that.
Legend has it that Sundar actually was not at all keen to leave McKinsey, and it took a lot of convincing from some very senior people at Google to actually get him here. So, I want to congratulate Sundar on his promotion to CEO, and would have been the biggest irony in corporate life if Sundar had actually not joined Google.
Lalitesh, if I can come to you, you're someone who has, interacted with Sundar in the past when he's come to India. Take us through the experience, and, we've got a lot of insights on Sundar, the personality, a shy, reserved personality, very studious, very quiet. But tell us about Sundar Pichai, the manager.
I known Sundar since the time that he was leading Google Apps products, Gmail and Chrome. And I knew him because that was a very important part of our India strategy. And he used to come to India often. His family is in Karnataka, so he used to come to visit his family every December, and he made it a point to stop by the Bangalore R&D Center. And I had the pleasure of interacting with him during that time. And what we realized is how deeply he cares about engineers everywhere, how deeply he cares about users around the world, especially in India, and his thoughtfulness both from a product standpoint of view and engineering standpoint of view, and his commitment to make sure that Google works for all 7 billion people. As an example, when he took over Android, one of the first things I did is I went and met him, and we discussed why Android is not scaling in India and countries like India, and what was required from an operating system point of view to reduce the footprint of Android so that smartphones can become cheap and plentiful in India. And he immediately turned around, did a bunch of research, and within a week announced to Larry and team that the next version, which happened to be KitKat, would have a memory footprint much smaller, which set the stage for the avalanche of low cost, high quality smartphones that we are seeing in India today. And he is very clear that he cares about not Google and all of Google's products not just reaching and making the first 100 million people in India and the first 1.5 billion people in the world successful, but making sure that information touches and empowers all 7 billion people. So that's, to me, is what's exciting about Sundar being the CEO of Google.
Thanks for that perspective, Lalitesh. Taking back to you, Amit, you mentioned he was pretty reluctant to join from McKinsey, but they finally managed to convince him. Take us through that, what really convinced him, and also talk to us about his rise, because from a product manager in 2004, he's now the CEO of Google.
Absolutely. So, like I said, the story kind of I heard is that somebody basically finally challenged him. I think it was either Larry or Eric, perhaps, that, hey, do you want to just consult and help other people, or do you want to build stuff yourself and get it out to millions and hundreds of millions and eventually now 1 billion people? And I think that is supposedly what sort of convinced him. I think, one of the most interesting things, I joined Google in 2007 about Sundar was that he was not afraid to go against, sort of conventional wisdom, or even in some cases, even senior leaders in the company. So, for example, for Chrome, I believe that neither Larry nor Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google at the time, was very keen for Google to get into the browser wars. Billions of dollars had already been bled. He still took a bet to go onto Chrome pretty late in the game, and of course now sort of the rest is history. I think Chrome has more than 50% market share. So it was very, very he did a lot of things, which were not necessarily popular, and he was very decisive about it. So he could pick these bets and go for it. Like Lalitesh also said, he's also very, very deeply technical and cares a lot about technology and a lot about innovation. So he would literally go to the kernel of the issue and encourage innovation all the way all around the world.
Lalitesh, taking it back to you, does Sundar Pichai's appointment also indicate that India is going to become a very important market going forward? It's something that he signaled as well when he was in India last year for the Android One launch. But are we going to see the attention only going up?
Yes, and it is not just because, it is India and Sundar is from India. I mean, I can tell you that he deeply cares about, his own Indian heritage, and he loves it. But because India is really the sharp end of the stick when it comes to the emerging market, and whatever succeeds and happens in India is very likely to succeed for the next 5 billion people on the planet. And for that reason, for Google and all the internet companies around the world, India is the battleground where you have to, make sure that these products that we are building for everyone truly work for everyone and in the hands of 1 billion people, which will set the stage for, those products then reaching everyone else. So for all those reasons, India matters a great deal for, I think, Sundar and Google.
Amit, you're a venture capitalist, and the startup ecosystem is something that Google, Sundar Pichai both are excited about. The last time he was here, he was also part of the NASSCOM startup initiative. So in that sense, what sort of engagement do you expect going forward? Will we see a lot more attention coming in for startups here?
Yeah, so Sundar has led a lot of the developer engagement for Google around the world, right? In fact, he's typically sort of the keynote speaker at the Google I/O events, which are held out of San Francisco. So I think he's very, very bullish about innovation. He's very bullish, like I said earlier, about technology. Deeply cares at the sort of micro level. I think they have a very thriving sort of developer ecosystem, and I see it only getting better for startups with sort of more open APIs and more open sort of platforms. For them to build interesting innovations out of.
Amit and Lalitesh, thank you so much for that perspective. Two former colleagues of Sundar Pichai joining us exclusively on ET Now to really tell us about what makes Pichai tick. But moving on, Pichai's appointment has also garnered a lot of attention on Twitter, with the Prime Minister also congratulating Sundar Pichai. Some really talking about his South Indian heritage to credit his success. Here's Sonali Krishna joining us with a quick Twitter chatter.
The 11th of August 2015 will be etched in India's tech history as Google named Sundar Pichai as its CEO. Well, of course, India was overjoyed as the news trickled into the wee hours of the morning. And typical to our behavior, we had Indians from all quarters trying to hog and claim some of that limelight. Twitter was no different, with Indians really proud of this historic moment, and Narendra Modi himself tweeting a congratulatory message to Pichai. Apart from that, of course, the likes of Nikesh Arora and Satya Nadella did the same on Twitter. A tweet by the former Google executive Nikesh Arora particularly hit my eye. He tweeted, "Now I feel cheated. Smiley, LOL, congrats, Sundar Pichai." Chennai Super Kings, of course, joined the party bandwagon on Twitter too, saying, "Hearty congratulations to Sundar Pichai, Google's new CEO. Did you know that he was the captain of his high school cricket team too? Hashtag #WhistlePode." Rupa Subramanya took the whole conversation a step further, saying, "Great day for South Indians, Indians. First Microsoft, now Google, next target Apple. Moral of the story, eat curd rice, hashtag do math, Sundar Pichai." And there were many such South Indians and Tamilians who were spreading the joy and claiming their share of the limelight, given that Sundar Pichai is a Tamil boy. Now, this particular graphic was one of the most retweeted tweets thanks to its hilarious content. Take a look at your screens. It reads, "Sundar Pichai of Google Alphabet has new fans. Here's what they have mailed him." First up, Narendra Modi says, "Look, Cheryl refused to name Facebook after me, but you can do better." Rahul Gandhi, next up, saying, "Just make sure my sabbatical pics never reach the public." Former Housing.com CEO Rahul Yadav saying, "Looking for a successor, ? Radhe Matu making it to this elite list saying, are you pure and pious?" Vandana Luthra from VLCC, her fan mail saying, "Slim down Google, give me a call." Justice Kaju saying, "Google is an irrelevant thing and is worthless." And Narayan Murthy there saying, "Hi-fi." But apart from all the fun and jokes, I think Anand Mahendra's tweet is a pertinent one. He tweeted, "India-born CEOs for two of the world's biggest tech companies. Time to pause and wonder why its abundance of talent hasn't transformed India yet." So for all those of us who are reveling in Sundar Pichai's glory, maybe it's time for all of us here at home to reflect on that very poignant tweet by Anand Mahendra.
Thanks so much for that, Sonali. And that really brings us to the end of this special show. It's been an amazing rise to the top with Sundar Pichai, and hopefully his ascent will inspire scores of engineers and students in India. Because after all, Sundar Pichai has proved that nice guys do finish first. Thanks so much for watching this special show.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.